Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young. This is a weekly podcast where we explore the strengths we have because of our sensitivity and some of the challenges it poses as well. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. Hey there. To the creatives, healers, sensitives, and deep thinkers, how the heck are you? We are almost at the end of June 2024. How are you doing? Jen and I are scheduled to record today. She has some things going on, and so part of what I'm going to talk about in this episode is my need to take charge of some things that are going on in my life. I'm feeling a real lack of control, and how I'm trying to step back into my life and have a little bit more of a sense of autonomy is to just be a little bit more proactive. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk to you about in this episode. I'm also going to talk to you about not feeling like I'm living, like I'm in my own life. I feel like I'm outside of my life and I want to step back into my life. I'm going to talk about some of the powerlessness that I'm feeling, my PDA, where I'm at with my attachment injuries. And I'm going to talk a little bit about travel and some of the things that are going on in anticipation of an upcoming trip and some of the things that I'm doing to manage my anxiety and some of the ways that I'm getting a little activated. And I know some of you have reached out to me and asked about travel before and how do you navigate travel. So hopefully that's what we're going to talk about. The other thing I need to let you know is there's a chance that I will get interrupted during this recording and I may just keep it in. My son, Josh, who's in boot camp week 9, they have something called battle stations. And that's when the culmination of all of their training, they are up for 36 hours straight and they practice everything that they have learned. And if they pass, then we get a quick call that just says, I'm a sailor, no conversation. And we are expecting that call today or tomorrow. It also happens to be both boys' birthdays today. So I normally turn my phone off and turn it over where I don't get distracted. And today it is off, but I'm keeping an eye on it. And because I'd love to record the call, if he gets it, y'all are going to hear it in this episode. But I don't think it's going to happen. Just want to give you a heads up. I think probably the easiest place to start is the attachment injuries. Overall, they're getting better. And I don't feel like I'm getting taken out as much. I still feel a low grade level of dysregulation. I feel like I've learned to manage it. I wouldn't choose it. It's not really fun. I think I figured out some ways to distract, and I really am seeing how I'm trying to think of the best way that I can describe this. And it didn't become clear to me until I was working with a client who's also a therapist that we had a session and there's this thing that comes up for her. And I'm only using this as an example to illustrate my own stuff. And maybe this isn't necessary, but I'm not going to overshare about any of her information. But this primary wound comes up and then she has ways that she wants to manage it that feel like that's what's going to work. And it wasn't until the day that I had this session where I was talking to her about it that it became clear about what that looks like for me. I think that's one of the gifts of the work that I do is it keeps me really connected to myself and what's going on. And I have a greater awareness. It's also my special interest, relationships, growth. And what I'm noticing is I will start, it's my OCD, I will start ruminating on something that has to do with a relationship, whether it's with Jen. Now what I'm finding is I'm having these attachment injuries show up in other relationships. The intensity is much lower, but the narrative is the same. And the narrative is kind of along the lines of, I'm not significant, I'm going to be replaced, I'm not as important, I'm going to be bumped out. And it's just fascinating to watch. It's also really annoying AF. I know it's all part of the healing process, but I'm ready for a little break. And what has changed for me now when these attachment injuries come up is because the OCD wants me to stay in my head and loop and kind of reason and rationalize it through. That's all frontal lobe stuff. There's no trauma in our frontal lobe. I'm not an expert in OCD, so if you are and I'm getting this wrong, please feel free to reach out and let me know. But what it feels like is those relational looping thoughts are based in my trauma. And my core wounds are, I'm not enough. I don't matter. I'm too much. It's not okay to take up space. And so I really, when I can recognize this, I try and drop back down and do some parts work around, I'm precious. I'm lovable. I'm supposed to take up space. I'm supposed to talk about my feelings. It's healthy and normal to talk about all of my feelings, to express how I'm feeling in relationships. I'm supposed to be loud and joyful and take up space and be expansive. And I really try and drop back into that wound, because this is the most tangible example that I can give you, that I've told you that I seem to have this focus on my car being locked, and I don't go out and check it, but it's there. And I often, like when I went to paddle last week, I knew I'd locked my car. I went back and checked. And so the checking behavior, for me, I check once and I seem to be okay. But if I had to go back and check 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, even if it's 2 or 3 times, then I need to look at what is it that's driving that. And coincidentally, part of what I processed with my coach on Monday, which was very painful and uncomfortable, is I have some early childhood trauma that has to do with being violated. That's all I'm going to say. But there's definitely a sense of hypervigilance because of that. And it doesn't surprise me that that's part of my trauma, why there's OCD there. I think that's just what I had to do to stay safe. So I come by this honestly, and I share this with you so that maybe it can help you, if you don't have it, to have some self-compassion, to have some gentleness around it. All of the things that we have that we may call defense mechanisms as adults kept us safe when we were kids. They were very adaptive because it kept us safe. And now as an adult, do these things really work for me? I'm just having an opportunity to look at how these attachment injuries are showing up in other places. The good news is with Jen, I think for the most part, the attachment injuries, that intensity has dropped down a notch. I'm still feeling challenged because I still get activated. And here's a perfect example that yesterday Jen sent me a text saying she's cocooning, which is a really beautiful thing for my attachment injury. She's giving me information. It's not about me. She's cocooning. I know what to expect. It creates what my therapist, my coach, calls a container. I know what space there is for me in this relationship. And I really appreciated that. And that felt very secure until I was walking the dogs with Steve last night, and then I thought, oh, Jen had something significant happen yesterday, and I left her a polo through Marco Polo, and I didn't ask about it. And I can't even remember what it was, but I know I talked about some relational things between the two of us. And then this is where I don't know if it's my insecure attachment, my preoccupation kicks in. And so that secure feeling of like, oh, she's cocooning and it's okay. This is where it starts to creep into the obsessive thoughts. I wonder if she's mad, hurt, angry, disappointed that I didn't mention that thing that was happening today, because it's a huge thing. It's been building up for quite some time, and I didn't mention it. Now, here's the thing. I'm the one that gets upset when Jen doesn't remember things or people don't remember details. Part of my autism is I have, for the most part, a very strong ability to remember details, logistics. That's just how I'm wired. Not other people are wired that way, but I often have this expectation that they will have that same penchant that I do. They don't. So the chances of this upsetting her are probably pretty small to none. And then where my OCD took me was, I wonder if when I talked about the relationship stuff, if I upset her and I'm making too many demands. This is a constant gremlin that I have of that, I'm too much. I ask for too much. I'm hard to be in relationship with. And, I shared with you in a recent episode that I got that feedback from someone. Whether it had to do with me or not, I still don't know. I'm doing some rumbling around that. It's kind of resurfacing. When I do my parts work, what I know is, in the right relationships, all my feelings can be expressed. All my needs are okay. Any way that I show up is okay. And what I know is, especially because of my PDA and probably my fear of being too much, I am overly controlled often. I'm going to speak specifically with Jen about not wanting to take up too much space. And we were just connecting briefly on Saturday. I had some things going on and then she had to go. And I'm like, okay, I got my need met, but it was for a pretty brief amount of time. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I tend to be very respectful about it's late. You need to go to bed. I know you have clients. I know you need to go. That's my fear. I acknowledge that. And it's also a part of me being very respectful. And so while this wounded trauma part feels like I'm too much, I'm hard to be in a relationship with, there's another part of me that knows that in the right relationship, I am loyal and I am very dependable and I will be there for you and I will communicate and I will be incredibly vulnerable and honest. And I do have a lot of attachment stuff that comes up, but I own it and I talk about it. But I started to get kind of blended. And that's really not fun. So I did leave Jen a polo last night and said, hey, I don't know if there's something that I did or didn't do, but if there is, let me know. And asked if she was still up to recording today. And then this morning she hadn't watched my polo. So I'm kind of checking. And she also doesn't know that I said, if you're not up to recording. So I did send her a text this morning and said, hey, if you're not up to recording, that's fine. Just let me know. I have a pretty full day. And it's easier for me if we're not going to record now in the morning. Otherwise, I bump up against having clients and it just puts me into a full day. And then I didn't hear from her for a while. And again, she's got clients, she has things going on. But when I'm really trying to stay grounded and center on myself and my needs, it feels like I'm waiting. I'm waiting to step into my life. I'm waiting to see if things are going to happen. There's just a lot going on right now that is uncertain, is unsure. And so part of what I decided is I'm going to use this time that I have this morning to record. And then if she wants to connect when we are going to meet, great. And if she needs space, then that's fine too. And then I came into my computer and got everything set to record and turned on my computer and it wouldn't turn on. And I had this happen a month or two ago and then it resolved itself and I could not get the computer to turn on. Then I started to panic and work myself up and was really aware of, I'm trying to have autonomy. I'm trying to take care of myself. And now I'm going to have to go buy a computer this morning. And do I have everything backed up? And some of the things I don't. And I have to submit a podcast episode today and the show notes are on the computer. I have a backup drive, but I don't think that my show notes are on the backup drive. So today I will be putting all the cover art, all the things that I need on my backup drive since we know that this is going on. But I could feel myself starting to get kind of activated again. Fortunately, it worked out. For this moment, I'm okay. But these are the things that make it harder when I feel like I'm not quite at baseline. I'm not fully activated, but I'm partially activated. My nervous system is activated. I'm using all of my skills to manage. And then when little things happen, I do not manage as well. And I just have to kind of go with it. I think that the third thing that, maybe it's the second thing that I'm going to talk about is travel and some of the things that I'm doing, how I'm modeling a different way to show up with travel and just some of the anxieties. And this is just part of it that I'm a little bit reluctant to share this because just please know that this is about me and me being activated. And I kind of had thought about before recording this a few days ago that I was going to totally change the scenario. That's hard for me to do. Anyways, we are going to be traveling to see my son graduate. So my husband's going, my son, his girlfriend, and Josh's girlfriend are going. We've extended our stay because it sounded like Josh was going to have more free time when he's there. Then we got a letter that said he may not. We changed our flights. We extended our stay at the Airbnb. I don't cook. I don't do meals. That's just something that's really hard for me. And the last time we took a family vacation with our kids and their girlfriends, not this one girlfriend, but the other one, what we did that really worked is I asked the kids, can you to pick 2 meals for 2 nights. And for those nights, you're responsible for cooking dinner. It just makes it so much easier. And it was lovely. And they're happy to step up. So we created a group shopping list because the plan is when we get there, the day that we get there, we're going to do grocery shopping. We'll have some stuff for meals in the house. We have to get up very early the next morning to be at the graduation. With the time difference, we have to be there. It would be 5:30 our time. And we have to be at the airport, I think at, 4:30 our time to fly out. So a lot of early days. And I wasn't getting a lot of traction on the grocery list. And so I talked to Jen on Saturday and realized how much I was stressing about the trip and meals and the grocery shopping. And so it brought it to the forefront of my mind that I'd been thinking about this, but it wasn't very conscious. So I sent out a group text saying, I'm feeling a little bit anxious about the trip. Part of what helps me is to have a plan, propose the idea that the couples each propose a couple of meals so that we make sure that it's something that everybody wants. And they wanted to add to the grocery list. And I did talk to one of the girlfriends, and she was incredibly supportive. I talked about some of my anxiety, my fears. She really was supportive. She has some stuff going on. I was able to talk to Daniel. So we all have our own stuff around traveling and not knowing how it's going to be seeing Josh. And is he only going to want to spend time with his girlfriend? Is there going to be time for us? Some of us want to sightsee. Some of us, it doesn't matter. How do we work this out? And what the communication patterns look like in our family, that it's often not uncommon when the kids come here to visit that we'll make a plan for dinner. And then the kids go into the room and they fall asleep. And Steve and I eat earlier. The kids eat later. Then Steve and I, this is a charged word, but I'm going to use it, feel like we're being held hostage because we're expecting to eat. The kids are sleeping. They're okay eating later. We don't want to eat. We don't make a plan and we don't communicate. And so part of what I talk to the people that are wanting to go out and do things is make a list of the things that you want to do. And what I would suggest that you do is to propose, these are the things that we want to do. Are any of these interesting? This is when we're going to do it. Because what my experience, I love my kid, and I'm not throwing him under the bus. He tends to be like, let's just see. He's not a big planner. One of my kids is a planner. One is not. I'm a planner for the most part, unless we say, let's just play it by ear. And so then what happens is nothing happens because we're kind of waiting because there's not a plan. And so what we were talking about is anticipation is let's decide what the plan is. And then it's like, this is what we're going to do. And if you want to join us, great. And if not, that's okay too. I think this is a really good opportunity to model for some of these folks who just haven't had that experience of how do you take care of yourself when there are lots of people, lots of competing needs. And I think that a number of us don't like conflict. And so no one makes a decision. And what I said about the meals is, can we have some things on hand and some meals tentatively planned so that we don't get stuck with this, I'm hungry, we don't know what to eat, there's nothing to do, and we don't have a plan. And one of the concerns is, well, what if we have all this food for meals and then Josh wants to eat out? It's like, well, nothing is in stone and we don't have to buy food for every single meal. But for me, knowing that there's a framework that's flexible and adjustable feels like there's something I can lean into. There's a plan. So we have some meals, we have some food for meals, we have somebody who's going to cook the meals, not for every night. So if we want to go out, we can go out. Those things are really helpful for me, and it gives me a sense of feeling a little bit more grounded and tethered. Also, part of my autism is I'm often not aware of when I'm hungry, and then all of a sudden it hits me and I'm hangry. And I cannot make decisions. By the time I realize that I'm hangry, it's too late. So for me, having food on hand that's quick and easy to prepare is really helpful because I just often miss those signals. It's not uncommon too, and it happened yesterday, that I leave a little bit of time between sessions and I was working up until the last minute, and then I had like 2 minutes until the next client. And I was like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. I just do not always tune into my signals for hunger, for thirst, for needing to go to the bathroom, for needing rest. And that is very common if you're autistic. We just don't have that. It's interoception. We're just not in tune with our body's signals and cues. The other thing that I did is I have a universal packing list that I made a long time ago, and I keep that on my computer. And then when I travel, I pull up that list. And then this one is, the boot camp travel list. And I did two things. I made a to-do list because we're having somebody come and stay and watch the dogs. So I need to get information about how to care for the dogs, where the vets are, how to get there, who to call, all of the things that need to be done. I have a charging block from my phone. I need to find it. I need to charge it. I've got air tags for luggage. So I made a to-do list, and then I worked on the packing list. And then I love using recycled paper. So whenever I get mail, I use a letter opener to open the envelopes. And if the back of the envelopes don't have writing on them, I keep them in a drawer by my desk. And that's what I keep my to-do lists on. So I pulled out an envelope and used marker on the top so I don't lose it that says, boot camp trip. And then it's got to do and to pack, so that often when I'm sitting at my desk, something will pop up and I can just put it on that. I also can add it to my phone if I need to. So these are the things that help me, because for me, being prepared, having the things that bring me comfort is really, really important. And, I can buy whatever I need when I'm there, but being prepared is also really important to me. And then what I talked about with my family is I just need to keep talking about it. And my hope is that if I keep talking about it, that will help me to work down some of that. I think part of it is, as autistics, we process 42% more information than allistics. Our brains are very, very busy, very active. We're taking in all kinds of information. And because my brain is kind of geared towards logistics and planning, I'm great at troubleshooting, forecasting, catastrophic thinking, which when harnessed is a very good quality to have because I can anticipate things that might happen. It also means that I have a very busy mind. So these are tools that I use to kind of manage that. I think I talked about this. I also do direct flights when I can because layovers are challenging for me. So whatever it is that you need to do, I also decided I have this fleece throw that I use every day when I'm watching TV and want to cuddle up. I have another blanket that I use on my bed that's kind of like my blankie. And I'm going to create room in my suitcase for this fleece throw because it brings me comfort, and I want comfort and soothing when I'm there. I know there's going to be a lot of change. We're going to be doing a lot of new things, and having things that are familiar brings me comfort. So I'm going to figure out a way to make room in my suitcase to bring this fleece throw with me. It's not huge. So what are the things that you need when you travel? I've also talked to a couple of other autistics. This isn't true for all of us. I overpack and overprepare for everything. Even when I leave just for the day, I have lots of stuff. That's just who I am and what makes me feel secure. If that is due to trauma, due to autism, doesn't matter. It's just who I am and what I know about myself. The other thing is making sure that I've got snacks for traveling, that I've got water for hydrating, and thinking about what food is going to work for me when I'm there. But for me to not have some protein and some snacks for traveling is going to make the day harder for me. I'm just going to get cranky. The other thing, if any of you have any information about what's helpful for migraines, I know there's the elimination diet, but I've been getting migraines again, and that totally sucks. And I can't tell when I'm getting a migraine. I get a lot of neck tension. Sometimes I'm sensitive to light. Sometimes I'm nauseous. Sometimes I can sit with it for a couple of hours and then it gets worse. I hate taking migraine meds if I'm not confident. I don't get an aura. I've had the dizziness is back. Just a lot going on. And so that's a whole other factor that I'm having to navigate with all of this other stuff. And it's just not really clear to me. And I don't want to take migraine meds if I don't need to, but it feels like I get really tense. I had a COVID booster, and that created a tremendous amount of tension, like physical muscle tension that I think I generally have, but this just amped it up factorial. So anyways, I think that's pretty much all I have to say today. My hope is that you're doing well. We are just about halfway through the year. How is your year going? Is there anything that you're wanting to shift, alter, change? I'm not really a big planner when it comes to business and the year, and I look at things that I want to strive and have more of. So are there things that you're wanting more of? Are there things you're wanting less of? How's your summer looking? Are you doing anything fun? And often if you're autistic, work is fun, planning is fun, things that use our brain and help us solve puzzles and problems, logistics is fun. And it just looks very different than what fun might look like for other people. I think that's it. If you're interested in working with me, you can reach out to me at unapologeticallysensitive.com. If you want to shoot me an email, I'm at unapologeticallysensitive@gmail.com. Remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's how your brain is wired. You have a right to be confused, anxious, sad, lonely, activated, joyful, peaceful, content, moving your body, being in nature, being barefoot, being with animals, enjoying your special interest, stimming, humming, laughing, being noisy, being messy, being clean, being organized. You're not for everybody, and everybody's not for you. I think that's all I have. Have a blessed day.